All right. Today, I'm going to talk about a topic that I've seen discussed a little commonly in this, I guess, YouTube niche of weirdos who are semi conspiratorial, but also tapped into like politics and stuff like that. And the topic is schizo versus psycho versus normie. And I'm going to give my take on it. So, to start, we need to describe each of these trifecta parts. The psycho is considered someone to be cutthroat, exploitative. Usually they're businessmen, bankers, influencers who chase trends, tech bros, basically the elite and the petite bourgeoisie class. They love money and they love power. They like to control. And then there are also the schizos who are pattern noticers. They're independently spiritual, usually philosophical. They're the slacker class. They don't fit into normie systems. They're usually very smart and they like to follow their own interests. And they're tapped in. They're both self-aware of their role in society. Like they're very self-aware because businessmen think of themselves as, not necessarily all of them, okay? Like a lot of them, a lot of entrepreneurial types just see themselves as like, I'm trying to get ahead in society, and they don't really think too hard about, like the moral implications of certain things that they do, which is understandable. I mean, this society is inherently exploitative. So if you're putting yourself higher, like you are gonna be exploitative yourself. So both of these are self-aware. So let's talk about normies. Normies are like the average person. The average, like if you were to take a survey of all the people in the country, this is like the most normal, what you would consider normal. They fit into society. They have jobs. They consume mass media. They're also they have a lot of big downsides because they're highly susceptible to propaganda. They're highly susceptible to religious institutions, also known as mind control through conditioning, which is propaganda and religion. And like the thing about religion is that it's not untrue. It's like there are things within religion that are like real, but institutions come in and kind of capture that and say, I'm standing between you and like your enlightenment. I'm standing between you and your ascension. I'm standing between you and God, which is like not cool because now like normies are like, oh, the only way I could, come into contact with the higher power is through this institution. When in reality, if these institutions didn't exist, you could still make contact, you could still meditate, you could still pray. Like you don't need an institution to do all that for you. But anyway, they think within the box. They love traditions, they love rituals, they love routines. They follow directions from authority without much resistance, and they have no interest in things outside the average domain of experience. They're unaware, but also they are unbothered as long as their lives aren't affected. It's very much like an ignorance is bliss situation. And I think most schizos are surrounded by normies because that's just natural. Like it's very rare when you have like schizo parents. And even then, like I know these really like smart professors who are very like political and they are super intelligent, and they have they have a child who's like the most like normie that you like. They have Patrick Star as their child, and I can tell that like it's very sad because the child is so nice, they're so sweet, but like the parents they obviously expect so much out of this child that is just not like, it's not gonna happen. They're talking about like going to college and getting like a really high paying job. I'm sorry, I don't think I don't think that's gonna happen. But they're the sweetest kid. Like they're like a teenager, but they have like the brain of like a child. But anyway, so the way these interact is that like the psychos prey on the normies and convince them to hand over their money, their time, and their control. And that's because psychos are, I have a weird opinion. I don't have the like the mainstream opinion on capitalists, because they do serve a role, they do organize, and they do take risk, but a lot of them are very exploitative. A lot of them are, and I've met a lot, and I've worked for some. And there are business people who are more like conscious and mindful of their effect on society, so they do try to mitigate the way that they extract value from their workers and from the populace at large. So I will say not every psycho is like evil. It's just like psycho is a label. Psycho is a shorthand for person who wants to get ahead. Okay? And like these people exist like everywhere. There's people who want to get into politics. There's people who want to become like billionaires. They're like, this could even be like a coworker who wants to like climb the ladder, you know? So but for psychos, I think I was watching K-pop Demon Hunters, and there's this part where like the Saja boys, which are the evil K-pop group, they're kind of like vampiric. They exploit, they suck up like the life energy out of their fans, and they have a song called like Soda Pop, and it's all about like they're subtly telling their fans like you're like my drink, I'm gonna drink you, like, and it's very catchy, and like everyone's dancing to it, and that's kind of like an allegory for how people like worship like influencers, they worship business people, they worship celebrities, and they actually need you more than you need them. If you look at like the Kardashian family, for example, they need your attention. They're sucking up your attention because they have so many eyes on them. They can convert that into business deals. They can go to businesses and say, I have like hundreds of millions of people following me, so whatever I endorse is going to be bought by a lot of people, so you need to give me a lot of money. And it's funny because like a lot of money is just comes down to like attention, and there's the attention side of business, and then there's the like actual like I sell stuff, I create products side of business. And so like that's the two, like that's the psycho economy. So schizos relationship to psychos is that schizos expose psychos by calling them out or engaging in direct confrontation through political movements, art, and independent media. So a lot of the time, schizos will become artists, so they can talk about like, like a lot of this is unconscious. This is not like, oh, I'm a schizo, like this is who I am, like I'm a freedom fighter. This is unconscious. Like there's schizos do not fit in society. They just don't fit, so they end up becoming artists. They become tattoo artists. They become musicians. They become DJs. Like these people just don't fit within normie society, okay? And like a lot of the time they become journalists as well, or content creators, and they use a platform to bring attention to psycho behavior, okay? And this extends all the way back to like when we were tribal, okay? Because we had the chief of the tribe. We still have this, like if you look at like friend groups, there's always like a leader. So in small tribes of like, let's say around 100 people, there was one chief who like ran everything. That he had like, you know, a little inside group, but there would also be like the shaman. Okay. And the shaman was, the schizo for like the Stone Age, you know. The shaman they wouldn't do labor. They would kind of just be like on their own for a while. Like if you've seen the show Vikings, the seer is the schizo for the tribe. Okay. And they're respected, and they other people come to them for answers that they just like, they have a problem. Like I need to know something outside of the realm of an average person. Like what is this problem that I'm having? They have metaphysical knowledge. Okay. They can notice patterns that are occurring. So like if someone comes to them with a problem, they'll just be like, I've seen this before. Like this is your answer. You need to do this. So schizos also become psychiatrists or psychologists, but a lot of normies do too, because I mean they just, normies happen to go like in the medical field. There's a lot of schizo, psycho, normie. Like normies are the nurses, psychos are the doctors and the finance people, and the schizos are like the researchers and the psychologists. And like, yeah, like schizos are abstract. They're abstract, and they like, normies don't like this. Okay, so this is the normie relationship to the schizo. Normies chastise schizos for not conforming to what is commonly accepted and societally expected. Normies hate their traditions or beliefs to be transgressed upon, even if they are harmful or untrue. Sorry, I took notes before doing this video so my video would flow better, instead of just me like rambling and trying to like come up with the next thing to say. Anyway, so yeah, normies do not like schizos, because basically what the schizo does is they come in and they inform the normies that like, hey, this institution is actually exploiting you. This this person is exploiting you. Like, do not go give your money to this church, because they're obviously spending it on like jumbo jets and their stadium and their products. They're selling products to their would you say parishioners? I'm not sure what you would call like the congregation. They're exploiting their congregation financially under the guise of like, we are saving more people through outreach. Which, I mean, they're like, the thing about like churches is that they do a lot of good stuff. They do, like they help the poor, and they help people out of, they can help people out of like a bad situation. But a lot of the time, I mean, like my cousin goes to a church where like they have like a coffee shop in the lobby of the church, and they sell stuff like there, and it's like, dude, like didn't fucking Jesus like kick all the people out from the temple for like doing this shit, you know? Like you're not really supposed to mix finance with the church, because that's like spiritual matters and like material matters, you know? Jesus said what's mine is what's the Lord's is the Lord's, and what Caesar is Caesar's, you know? And what he meant by that is like all your spiritual stuff, like that's for higher purposes, and all the material stuff, like pay your taxes, okay? Because the material stuff doesn't matter, okay? Like whatever the state wants to take from you, like let them take it, because they cannot take your spirituality. But yeah, that's something I don't like about American like Christianity. They mix that. They mix that a lot. And it like, you could say like, oh, we don't need this material stuff. So yeah, but neither does your church leader. Okay, they don't need a giant mansion. They don't need a Lamborghini. That's like not what they should be doing. They should not be focusing their efforts on material wealth. But in our country, we say material wealth equates to being blessed, unfortunately. Anyway, so yeah, normies do not like for schizos to burst their bubble. So if you're a schizo and you've ever told your normie parents like that they could be doing things better, and that certain things they do are actually harmful to them, they will not appreciate it. They will not. So going further into like the makeup of this trifecta, I would say the world is about 70% normie, and the other 30% is split between schizos and psychos. And why do I say that? I mean, like, it's kind of obvious, and things like tend to follow this kind of 2/3 to 1/3 pattern, because it's like golden ratio type shit. But the thing is, it's actually like, I get this from MBTI, and like, my next video is probably going to be all about MBTI, because a lot of, like, MBTI gets a bad rap because a lot of people don't understand how it works. They're like, oh, and MBTI is like the 6 personality type shit. A lot of people don't believe in that, and that's fine. That's totally fine. But it, like, once you grasp once you catch the pattern, you can't unsee it, because it's not like, a lot of people equate MBTI to astrology, and it's not mystical at all. It's very much based on like behavioral tendencies. So you should think of the 16 personality types as 16 behavioral tendencies that humans tend to have to interface with the world. So, for instance, like, there are some people who interface with the world through belief. Like, they believe everything. They're very religious. They're very traditional. There's people who interface with the world through logic, and that's basically me. Like, I take in all this data, all the day. Like, I spend all day like just research information, what I'm interested in, finding the connections, and kind of formulating a theory of everything. And that's how I interface with the world. I use this theory of everything, and I plug it into like whatever I'm doing. And that's just always like with me. And like, that's just my behavioral tendency. Like, everyone can be smart, everyone can be logical, but like, what do you tend to move towards? Like what do you fall back on? What's your default? That's your personality type. And a lot of people take that to mean as like, oh, there's only 16 personalities, but I'm a unique person. And it's like, yeah, like, you are. You can be one of the 16 personality types. Like, everyone is one. But you can also be a unique person and have a unique story. Like, that, like, it's just a behavioral tendency. We all have to have one, because we all have the same needs. Okay, we all need to eat calories. We all need to find shelter. We all need to find someone to mate with. Okay, we all need love, and so we all have different ways of attaining what we need. Anyway, the world systems are built for normies to live within but never thrive. And it's actively hostile to a schizo lifestyle. Okay, so at some point in history, it became necessary for people to work most of the day. Okay, and to get people to agree to this, to become part of an assembly line, like Henry Ford type shit, building the Model T. To get people to agree to this, they were initially paid very well. You know, the workers were treated well most of the time. I mean, obviously, like, once industrialization became big, there was like child labor, and then there were people like losing limbs in the factory machines, and there were not safety measures put in place for these workers. And then Upton Sinclair came along and was like, hey guys, I wrote this book about my time in a meat factory. Like, isn't it gross what they're like putting in your food, and like they're exploiting workers? And yeah, so it was mainly about worker exploitation. And this book is called The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. He wrote this book, and it was mainly about how gross the conditions in like factory processing of food is. No, it was mostly about workers' rights, okay, and how unfairly they were treated. But he had some like asides about like how the meat was being treated. Like, there was flies, like it was just gross, like blood was getting into the food, and people really like focused on that, and that kind of became the US like the is it the USDA that regulates food? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll put like a picture of like who's in charge of the food. It's probably something very obvious that like it just escaped my mind. But so that like he kind of created like quality measures for food, safety measures for workers. And where was I going with this? Oh, okay, so after all that, we now have like the 40-hour work week. Okay. The thing is about the 40-hour work week is that it's very tiring. And so you like over time, people got paid less and less. And like the minimum wage is now like nothing. Like if you're working minimum wage, you should be in high school or at least like not paying rent. Because right now, if you're working minimum wage, like you cannot live off of that. And this has happened over time with like inflation and businesses lobbying for like, we don't want to give people more money. But so this is very like, this whole system was created to trap normie production. Okay. And normies are like, usually they're okay because they love ritual, they love routine, they love believing in like whatever the fuck they like is believable, but mainly they love routine. So if you can trap them in a routine that they love doing and make them like it, or like at least make them believe that they don't have another option, then that's what happened. So the psychos built this system called the 40-hour work week, and they trapped normies in it, kind of like little archons that like. This is why I actually like Gnosticism, because it's just such a good like metaphor for how our society works. So the psychos trap the normies. They're exploiting them. The normies love routine, so they're fine. They're getting paid. And then the schizo, here comes the schizo. You know, the like, we don't fit into society because we see the pattern. We see people getting exploited. We see like that this is not good. That like the 1% is taking up all the value and they're not sharing it. They're just spending it frivolously. They're not doing any work. They do organize stuff because much of the time schizos and psychos are much more intelligent than the average person. And so like over time there's just been a battle between psychos and schizos for the liberation and the enslavement of the normie population. And remember, the normies are like 70% of the human population. So that's a lot of production capacity, productivity, energy. Like it's a lot, you know. It is something that we have built society on the backs of normies. Okay, because normies are workhorses, and they love traditions and rituals, but they also love like family. They love like sensory stuff. So this whole country environment, like houses, all of this stuff is just built for normies. And like we all love, you know, like all our like infrastructure and stuff. And it wouldn't have been possible without normie labor. Okay, because normies are doing the labor. Psychos don't really do labor. They organize. Schizos don't really do labor because they're like, I need to think. I need to take in patterns. I need to take in information. So right now, a lot of the schizos, they either have a job that's very like it doesn't require a lot of attention, or they make money through like if they're journalists, like they make money through things that they believe in, or they make money with a job that doesn't require a lot of their attention. So they'll have like kind of like a easygoing job. And in the 90s, these were the schizos were the slackers. And there used to be a role for like the slacker in the community. So a slacker would just put you on like the coolest music, coolest movies. He was just like the friend that would just introduce you to cool stuff. He usually smoked weed, did drugs, but he was chill. Like, he was cool. You could hang out with him. He wasn't weird. I mean, maybe he had like weird theories, but like he was just that friend that was very tapped into like strange things. And like now, like schizos, like the slacker does not exist anymore. And I was going to do a whole video about this, but I'll just talk about it right now. Like there used to be, like I said, in the tribal days, in the Stone Age, the role of the schizo was very venerated. And over time, psychos kind of took that role, because if you look at religious institutions, they're run by the psychotype. They're not run by schizos. If they were run by schizos, like every church would kind of be like its own individual thing. But I don't know, like it's kind of like Buddhism. Like there isn't really like one major school. There isn't like a giant institution behind Buddhism. Everyone just kind of agrees like, oh yeah, you got to meditate, and eventually you hit these like milestones within your meditation that your perception changes a little bit, and you become more connected to the world, and you ascend to enlightenment. Okay. And that, to me, like I believed in like Buddhism for a very long time, and I still meditate a lot, but it shouldn't end there, because the weird thing about Buddhism is that they kind of tell you to ignore, like, they're like, oh yeah, if you got psychic abilities, like, just ignore that. That's not good. Like, not that it's not good, more like that's just a distraction. If you start getting visions of the future, like, don't kind of get lost in that. If you start being able to read people's mind, like it, like yes, you can get this shit from meditation, but like they don't talk about it because it's very like they don't want people chasing that. And to me, that's like, I think there's something there that would be beneficial to know for the wider society. But anyway, so yeah, like psychos replace schizos in the religious spiritual front. So now you have like people in who run these stadium churches, and they look totally demonic. I forgot what that guy's name is, but I'll put like a little image of him. He literally looks like the devil, but people are following him like he's a holy person just because he's saying the right things. And it's like, yeah, this guy is a psycho. Like, he is exploiting the normies. He is like extracting value out of them under the guise of, I am going to provide for you this product called connection to God. And so to be a psycho in society, since we talked about how normies are like, they make up the bulk of society. Society is built around normies. Like, school is a normie construct. That's why schizos, they can do well in school if they have like a natural aptitude, but they don't have a natural like interest in school. Like, they might like art, they might like the extracurricular stuff, or they might try to get like some kind of degree that doesn't make money. But the system inherently is to train normies to become employees. And psychos, they like psychos in society. To be a psycho in society requires you to be born within that mindset through your family's lifestyle, or you naturally have the aptitude, but you need to work hard to get psycho status. And how is psycho status formed? Well, you just have to look at how the elite became the elite. A lot of them they come from a long lineage of elite families. Okay, and they like marry within each other, and they have their elite children. And they go to elite schools. They go to like Harvard. They go to Ivy League schools. Like, Ivy League should just be named elite, the elite education, because it's not about education. They do have the best education that you can get in the country, but it's not about that. It's about the connections you make there. because all the elite children go there. So it's all so they can meet each other. Like if you're the child of an elite, you are going to an Ivy League school, whether you like it or not, because you need to meet other elite kids and fall in love and like have babies with them. Like, it's funny because I've like when normies go to like an Ivy League school, they can tell that they're not within, they're not within that society, because there's elite there that are just, they're rich, and their behavior signals that they're rich. Like they talk about like, I have my summer home here. I like, this is our winter cottage, we're going to this sporting event. We're going to this gala. And like rich kids also, like, they don't really say thank you, in the sense that like they're not overly gratuitous the way a normie would be. So if you go to someone's house and there's like food all over, like there's just a lot of food laid out, elites will usually just like eat it. They won't say, oh, thank you for like for the party, like, because food at a party, drinks at a party, drugs at a party are not, they're there to serve as it's part of the infrastructure of the commingling of elites. Okay. So when you're a normie and you get invited to an elite party because an elite thinks you're cool, but like you're not an elite, but your friend is, so they bring you along and you're like, oh my God, like this is so cool. Like you're like gushing about like there's like good food on the table. There's like expensive drinks, and like they can sniff you from like a mile away because you're not used to that. They take this shit for granted. They take for granted that there's always good food available. There's always drinks available. Someone always has drugs. And if you're not an elite, like you're awestruck by this. If you're a normie. So like they kind of keep you as like their little normie pet. If you're like a normie, if you're a normie friend to an elite, you're almost, they see you as a pet. Not all the time, but like they are kind of like an alien species on top of a human, because like that's why people think they're lizard people, because they behave so differently to like a normal person, because they're surrounded by abundance at all times. They can go wherever they want. They have whatever resources they need, and they take it all for granted. And they think that this is normal. They literally don't have the capacity to empathize with the rest of the population, because they simply cannot. They cannot imagine what a normal person goes through, what a normal person has to struggle with to live in this society. So that's why they're okay with, like, let's exploit a little more. Let's turn the knob and like give workers a little less, because I mean, there's always stuff around. I mean, there's always stuff being provided. Like everyone in the country, like they love to tell each other that like everyone has like resources. And it is kind of true in the sense that there's always like some kind of like a welfare program that you can go to get help. But sometimes not everyone's aware of that. And not everyone can reach out, not every, like it's not like those things are automatic. You still have to go out and search for it, but and you still have to jump through a lot of hoops. So yeah, like rich people convince themselves, the psychos convince themselves that like the normies are fine. Like in fact, we can give them less because we have a country of abundance. And honestly, that's somewhat true, because if you look at the poor people in our country and you compare them to the poor people in like a third world country, like there is a big difference. But that does not mean just because there's people in Africa living in like homes made out of twigs, that does not mean that it's okay for our country to not provide for like the poorest people in this country, So yeah, like to be a psycho in society, you really have to work hard. You have to make connections. I mean, you could be a psycho on like a small level. You could be, like I said earlier, like climbing the corporate ladder, and like some people do aspire to be psychos. It's funny because like for the longest time I didn't realize I was a schizo. I like, because you're smarter, you still think within the mindset that this country programs you to think within. So like if you're smart, you go to college, you either go to college or you start a business and you become rich, right? So that's just the story. That's the programming story that we're told. And so when I was younger, I was just like, okay, like I'll just start a business and be rich and whatever. But like my behavioral tendencies were very much absorb information, notice patterns, and like I was raised by parents who are normies, but they're very like morally like they're moral absolutists, I could say, in the sense that like they really do believe in like this is right, this is wrong, there is no in between, there is no gray, you know. And obviously there is like a morally gray things in the world, but like that just kind of convinced me, like it just put like little it put Catholic guilt in my brain. So I could not become a psycho. I just couldn't. And like I didn't know any better. I didn't. That's just how society wants to sort you, you know. I wasn't raised by psychos, so like I don't buy the psycho narrative. It turned me into a schizo. And so now I'm a schizo. Like now I'm like, I need to do something, but I don't want to exploit. So I'm just gonna like it's really good that YouTube exists, I would say, because like YouTube is a way to passively put out important things, put out like information, put out your observations on patterns, and then you get money from like the capitalist like system. Like you're still putting in labor and getting money, and like you're furthering like the capitalist system. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think capitalism is inherently bad. I think value should be created rather than the government just like gives everything to everyone and sorts everything out, because like that doesn't work. The central authority does not have enough awareness to properly allocate resources to everyone. And communist countries believe that. Socialist countries believe that. I don't believe that. I think market forces do need to come into play. And China even believes that, because they do have a certain level of capitalism over there. And yeah, like I think capitalism is good. It's probably the best thing we have right now, but unchecked capitalism is bad. Like capitalism needs to have limits. You can't game the system, and that's what a lot of the rich people and psychos do. They game the system. They create traps for people with debt, and I've said in earlier videos that like the way they trap workers / normies is that they tie healthcare to employment. Okay, so like your employer gives you healthcare. They're literally like kind of like making it a life or death situation to stay an employee. So that scares normies and convinces them to not lose their job, because they're afraid they're going to lose their healthcare. Okay, they're afraid they're not only going to lose their money, the little like drip of money that the psycho gives them, but they're going to lose like their health. They're not going to be able to provide for their family, and that's very bad, you know. And our country is built this way. So that's all I want to say. You know, this is the relationship between normies, schizos, and psychos. I will probably go more into depth about MBTI, and we can unpack this on like a granular level. But yeah. So if some of you may be aware of this, especially if you're like clicking on this like crazy ass video, hopefully it just like puts some things into perspective. Thank you for watching.